Alright, what's up guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be checking out Red Purple Law, which we have not looked at in quite some time on this channel. I feel like it's been a few months. I could be wrong, but I think it has been quite some time. But we're starting to see some new cards pop up over in the East from the EB set, and we're starting to see some new results pop up over on websites like OnePieceTopDecks.com. And, you know, this leader had a lot of potential. It's a really fun leader to play. By the way, I have messed around with it. It's a very fun leader to play and does have a lot of potential. But it was missing some cards in OP05. And then in OP06, it got a few more tools, you know, that it could use at its disposal, so to speak. And that kind of allowed for it to get a little better, but it was missing something, right? It was just missing a little bit. And OP06 gave it two really good cards, by the way, in Shariah and in Reiju, right? Those were the two major ones. And of course, you know, it got some stuff from OP05, but the big thing was OP06 kind of take it to the next level. But in EB01, not OP07, but EB01, which is a set that comes out in between 06 and 07, it's getting two really strong cards in Kid and Killer, which we'll look at in just a second, and then Mr. 2, Bond Clay, Bentham. Again, these are both from the extra booster set coming out. And it's probably like the one last thing that it needed, right? It was probably like the one last, you know, missing piece that it needed. And in the video today, we're going to be going over it. This is an 8-1 first place list over in Japan. And guys, it's starting to look like it's fully hashed out. Like, okay, everything's starting to make sense. We're not just plugging in decent cards, you know, where we have an open spot. It's like, no, everything kind of is starting to have its place in this deck. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be the best deck in the format or anything like that. But what it does mean is it will probably be able to compete in an off-meta type of level, like in an off-meta type of slot. Right, because when you're looking at the best decks in the format, there's usually, you know, anywhere from one, you know, sometimes when the format's not balanced, all the way up to like 3 or 4, which kind of shows like a very balanced format as you get into the 3, 4, 5 range, and then those are the most, you know, how do I say it? They're the most well represented decks because they're kind of the most complete and they have the most answers and ways to win. They're just the best decks in the format, quote unquote. But then there's the off-meta spot where it's like it's just a little bit under those top decks, but it can still like make a dent in a tournament or randomly like win a tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a 74-player tournament. That's not a small tournament, right? So being able to win something like that, going 8-1 with this list, does show some potential. So let's go ahead and dive into it, guys. We're just going to kind of, you know, go over it. Some cards are returning from before, and some are new, like we were talking about earlier. And we're going to be looking at two different lists. One is 8-1, and the other was 6-1. They got second place in a 3-on-3 tournament. Okay, so we will look at that one next. Okay, so first up is this one, the one that got 8-1 at a you know, just a normal tournament. It runs, of course, you know, so this is Red Purple Trafalgar Law, if I didn't already mention that. It's running 4 Otamas, the 2K, 3 Zoros, 4 Trafalgar Law, the 1K, you know, the 4 cost 5K with a 1K counter that minus 2Ks on play. 4 Gordon, 4 Mori. This one's pretty interesting. This is a Revolutionary Army character here that has when attacking, if this character has 7,000 power or more, your opponent cannot activate blocker during this battle. So it's a card you can cheat out with his effect. It's a trigger card too that you can cheat out from the trigger in case you know if it's in your life. And it's going to be able to get around blockers, which is a big deal, which is a very big deal. And just for a 2-Dawn investment, right? So very potentially very powerful. Okay, then it is using Shariah here. It's running 3 Shariahs. This is a 3-cost, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. But listen to what it does. This is coming out OP06. It has when attacking or when blocking, whichever one, once per turn. This character's power becomes the same as the power of your opponent's leader until the start of your next turn. So you see what that does, right? No matter what their leader is, whether it's Whitebeard or it doesn't matter who, right? If it's Luffy, Whitebeard, it doesn't matter. Or if they increase the power of it through something like a Edward Newgate, right? It doesn't matter. This character still is going to match their power, and then any Dawn you attach to it is going to allow you to swing over their leader. So this is a very strong card. It's only cost 3. And for those who don't know, 3 is actually a very hot spot for red purple law, because you know when you're playing second, you know you get to start off by drawing a card, putting down 2 Dawn, and then 4 Dawn turn. You have a lot of options. A lot of cards in this deck, guys, are 4. Like a lot of them. You've got 4 calls here, 4 calls Kid and Killer. This is more for you know, later in the game for the when attacking, but you can still play it early. And then, you know, Beppo, of course, Reiju, and a card we're going to look at in a minute, Bentham. There's a lot of 4-cost cards in the deck, but there's not a lot of 3-cost cards. So if you're on the odd curve, before, yes, they had Zoro, of course, and this is a solid card. And even the 3-cost, this deck's not running it, but the 3-cost 5K Law, the Purple Law Searcher, when attacking if you have less Dawn than your opponent. Okay, so this basically took the spot of that card. At least that's how it kind of appears, because they've branched out. It's no longer like a red-purple Trafalgar Law deck, or, well, Heart Pirates, I should say. It's not that anymore, right? And it's not even like, it's not even solely Straw Hat, Kid Pirates, and Heart Pirates. It's all over the place, right? We've got 4 Otamas here. We've got 4 Gordons. You know, we've got the Reijus. We've got, you know, where's the card we're just looking at? Shiraya, he's film. And then even this Bentham card. So it's starting to, you know, kind of diversify across all of the different types. So, you know, having a searcher like that, it'll probably be very strong in the future. But currently, there's just not, it's probably not going to be as good as what this player's doing right here. But who knows? Things change in the future. New cards come out and so on. But anyway, long story short, this card right here is going to, it's a good 3-cost 4K blocker, and whenever your opponent attacks, you're going to be able to use this when attacking, when blocking, to match the power of the leader, and basically always be able to counter the leader's attack. You see what I'm saying? Like if they swing for 10K with a leader, well, this character's power becomes the same as the power of your opponent's leader until the start of your next turn. And by the way, they did errata this. It's this character's, I think it's this character's base power becomes the same as the power of your opponent's leader until the start of your next turn. So that way you can attach Dawn to it and it still get the effect, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't work properly. This card has been errated where it does work in the correct way, where you can attach Dawn to swing over them, or no matter what your opponent's leader goes to, you can use this when blocking effect to block them and just 1K counter out. Very, very powerful character. And this added quite a bit to Trafalgar Law because, again, you can just play it for free with the leader's ability. Okay? And if you guys have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comment section below. Then it's running 4 Kid and Killer. We do have to look at this one because it's a newer card for us over here in the West. This is a 4-cost 5K with Rush, period. Okay, it's already good as is. It does not have a counter, but that's not what we're trying to do with this card, right? It's a 4-cost 5K with Rush. That's already fine. And then it has when attacking, if your opponent has 2 or less life cards, this character gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. So you see how this is a very strong Alpha Strike card, right? This card is going to allow you to finish off games very nicely. I mean, 4 costs for 7, and in this deck, it's essentially free, right? If you're playing with Trafalgar Law, because you can just, you know, for 4 costs, you could play out something, you know, maybe play out Reiju if you can get the effect. We'll talk about her more in a minute. But maybe you play this card out to draw 2, and then you just -3, and this card comes in sideways swinging for 7K if they're at 2 or less life. Very, very strong. Okay. And again, this is one of the newer cards that came out in the EB set. So this is something we didn't have access to before. And it is Kid Pirates, by the way. So like I was saying, in the future, who knows? Maybe the Searcher will take the place of something in here and just give it more consistency. But for the time being, this is a great card that came out of the EB set that really helps out Red Purple Law. Next up is Shachi and Penguin. This is everyone kind of knows what this one does, right? This is a 2K counter. So 4 Shachi and Penguin, 4 Beppo, 4 Zoro Juro, however you say that, 4 Eustace Kid, the 5-cost 6K blocker, 4 Reiju, and 4 Mr. 2 Bon Clay Bentham. This is another new card that came out in the EB01 set. Okay, this card, very similar to the one we were just looking at in Shiraya, I believe his name is. Is that how you say it? Shiraya? Yeah. These cards are very similar. This is a 4-cost, 1,000 power character with a 1K counter. But then on play, you ramp a Dawn. You see this on play effect here? It's not a great translation, but you'll get the idea. On play, add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. Okay? And then when attacking, now it's not when blocking as well, because this is not a blocker, but when attacking, choose up to one of your opponent's characters. This character has the same base power as the chosen character for this turn. Okay, so in other words, if they have down a huge character, like a let's just say it's a Yamato, right? Like a 9,000 power Yamato down. Okay, no problem. When I attack, I can choose up to one of my opponent's characters. We'll choose that character in this case. And now this character is swinging for 9,000. Like, you see how powerful this is, especially later in the game. Who knows if this should be a 4 of, but it definitely is strong. You know, it has a spot. It can definitely have a spot in this kind of deck because, again, it's basically free, right? With the leader's effect, you can throw this out for free if you need to. So, very solid. And overall, guys, I did really like this deck, the idea of this deck going into OP0, I think it was OP05 when we first got a hold of it, right? But it felt like it was missing so much. And it clearly was, right? Like, look at this list. Like, yes, it has a lot of cards that were around back then. Even this promo card was around back then. But, you know, then in OP05, we get a card like Morley. In OP06, we get a card like Shariah, EB01 with Kid. And then even this Captain Kid came out in OP05. Same with this Zoro, and Reiju was OP06, of course, and EB01 for this card. So you see, it's almost like the deck was missing half of its pieces. But it is starting to turn out to be pretty decent. Let me see if I can go back. There are not a lot of results out yet from the East. And this is from, let me just show y'all. If you go to deck list on OnePieceTopDecks.com, here's the site right here. If you go to this website, and you get, these are the older sets, right? So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're going into the EB01 and OP07 format, and that's what they have down here. Now, OP07 is not technically out yet, I don't believe. It comes out February 24th, so it's not even out for them just yet. It comes out for them in February 24th, by the way, not for us, obviously. But this is all the EB01 stuff and everything since then. They're just waiting for OP07 to hit. But as you can see, guys, there's not a lot of results in yet. There's not a lot of big tournaments out yet, obviously, because all this is just coming out as of January 27th. But starting to see some cool stuff. Yeah, we see some familiar faces like Enel, Katakuri, Sakazuki. But now we're also starting to see like 2 red-purple Trafalgar Law decks, right? And now let's look at the other one real quick. By the way, this is the other deck, red-purple Law, that did second place, went 6-1 in a 3v3 tournament. So this one, a lot of similar cards. It's got 4 Shashin Penguin, 4 Beppo, 4 Kid, 4 Reiju, 4 Kamazo. This is a newer card from OP06. 4 costs 5k, but it's a 2k counter. That's the main thing, is it's a 4 costs 5k, so it's perfect with your leader's effect, and a 2k counter. The your turn effect is not like incredible. It's just once per turn. When you return Dawn cards on your field to your Dawn deck, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. Maybe in like a purple-black deck, this would have a place. But like if a future leader comes out for that, or if anyone ever tries to make Z work again. But long story short, this is not a great effect. It's mainly just a 4 cost 5k that has a 2k counter built in. And it is nice for getting around the little blockers, right? If they have like choppers or beige or something like that, little 2 cost 2k blockers, stuff like that. So it's not worthless, but mainly, generally speaking, this is a 4 cost 5k 2k counter, and it's Kid Pirate Supernova searchable. So for any kind of future keyword stuff. And it's Smile as well, but not much has been done there just yet. Okay, and it's running 4 of that new Bentham card, 2 Otamas. That's strange. I feel like you'd want to run 4 of these. just given the nature of the leader's effect and the 1 cost 2k counter that does that is such a useful card. But they do have tons of cost reduction here with 4 Gordons and 4 Raise Max. These are the exact same style card, guys. It's a 1 cost 2k with no counter. Activate main, put on the bottom of your deck, and minus 3,000 power during this turn. They're both the exact same. Place this card at the bottom of your deck, give up one of your opponent's characters, minus 3,000 power during this turn. Okay, and it's running 4 of that Shariah card already looked at, 4 Kid and Killer, and this one's running 4 Tony Chopper, which I do like this card a lot in Law. It makes so much sense. Because, okay, attached to Dawn, you're swinging for 6, and you're minus 3,000 powering a character for the turn. This card has such good utility in Law, and it's a 3 cost 4k blocker and a 1k counter. It's just kind of like never a dead card for what you're trying to do with Trafalgar Law. Really, red purple Law, of course. Probably red green Law as well, but who knows. And then this is the top 3 searcher for Straw Hat, Kid Pirates, and Heart Pirates. It runs 2 of those and 2 Radical Beams. So like I was saying in the other list, they were kind of getting away. Let me go like this. In the other list we looked at, this one here, they were kind of getting away from the keywords. Like who cares about the keywords, basically, is kind of what their mindset was. Because, again, in this list in particular, you've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 19, 23 cards that are not searchable. So it's like, you know, I get it. You could still run it and make it work, by the way, if you can clear up the spots for it. But I think, I will say this, out of the two lists, of course, it's always going to be about preference, right? Like, we'll have to see what happens as the set goes on and see which one's more effective. But I feel like, on paper, I actually like this one better. The first list we looked at that was 8 and 1 that didn't have any of the event support. It's just straight, you know, its characters are doing all the work for you. You know, and that's the kind of thing, like, maybe it wouldn't hurt to add like 2 rad beams like this one has. Who knows? But generally speaking, this list is obviously very good. But there's a few things that seem a little bit off to me compared to the other one. Like, for example, the other one wasn't running the Kamazo card. And yes, it is searchable with the event they're running to search it, of course. But it's like, okay, they're kind of going for the bigger body versus the cards with more utility, like Otama. And in that case, well, since we don't have 2 Otamas, you know, they had to make up for it by putting in these littler characters, these smaller characters that can that have utility, but then they have no strength later in the game. Like when your opponent's dropping huge characters, right? And I get it. It's running 2. It is running 2 searchers. You know, that's a little bit of card draw. It's not much. It's a little bit. But from my experience playing Red Purple Law, the problems when you start going through these, like, okay, cool, I'm getting these early answers. I'm getting these early answers, no problem. But then you start running out of cards. And yes, it does run Raise You as well, of course. That this card is huge. This card is really what Red Purple Law needed. But this is out in OP06. You know, and generally speaking, all of these cards are out in OP06, except for the Kamazu, which you can replace with a 2K counter of your choice. The Raise Max, you can't really replace that. Maybe with like a Gamma Knife or something. And the Tony Chopper. This one you can't really quite replace. But this list doesn't even run the 3-cost 5K Rusher Zoro. So you could literally just sling that in here if you need it, if you just need the body. And I get it. This is not the same card, obviously. But y'all see what I'm saying, just for the time being for type of replacement. Well, all right, guys, that's about it. I'm really curious to see what you guys think down in the comment section below. Like, when you see, what do you guys predict is going to be coming up out of the East here for EB01 and OP07? Are we going to be like, is it still going to be the 3 that we know about? Well, actually, I say the 3 we know about. There's also still going to be Yamato. You know, Yamato's popping up. Prone is coming up. This might end up, we might be going into like kind of like the golden era, or like the peak era for One Piece. And with these cards, like with these new decks coming out, guys, if you look at this, this is a pretty cheap deck. You know, like the Yamato deck, because people complain a lot about the prices of One Piece right now, and I 100% agree. I am there with you guys. One Piece is becoming way too expensive, and it's becoming too scarce. Like at the time you're recording this video, I believe the ST11 Uda deck was released last night. Again, at the time of me recording this video. And I have no idea when I'm going to be able to get my hands on that, right? Or where I'm going to get it from, right? It's one of those situations where it's just becoming so hard to get your hands on product. They need to fix that. But I'm looking at these new decks coming out like Yamato here. Okay, this is a pretty cheap deck, guys. Like all these cards are probably going to be pretty, you know, not too expensive. What else? The one we were just looking at, Red Purple Law. If this is something you're interested in, this isn't running Queen, right? There is no Queen in this deck. So these cards are probably going to be pretty easy to get your hands on. I think the most expensive card might be this. I think this is like $7 or $8 at the time you're recording this video, which that's very doable for a card game. And that'll be the bulk cost of the deck, I believe. Again, unless something changes, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how rare this card is. We'll have to see how rare these cards are. You know, Tony Chopper. It all depends. But then there's also, you know, I didn't see it on this list, but Blue Purple Reiju, you know, the actual leader, I'm saying. That's going to be a pretty cheap list as well to get your hands on. Or at least that's how it looks. Same thing with Red Green Law. Red Green Law looks like it's probably going to be making a little bit of a comeback because it's getting a new Cavendish card. It's got this Zoro card from OP06. And it's got this awesome new card from the EV set. So this might be a deck that shows up again in the near future. Even with Sakazuki out, this deck is still kind of making a little bit of waves. So who knows? It might be able to make its way back into the format. And you know, realistically, guys, this is one of the cheaper decks out there. this is one of the cheaper decks out there. I think it hits right around $100 for the whole list, like for the entire list. And this is a, you know, for many sets, this was a tier 1 list, S tier list. Now, yes, it has kind of taken a back seat to the new you know, power creep and, you know, leaders that have come out. But as it gets more and more cards printed for it, like this one and like this one, yeah, maybe it can make its way back in. Maybe it needs to make some revisions. But again, you know, not too expensive. And like I was just saying, this green yellow Yamato deck, this looks like it's absolutely going to be S tier in OP06. But who knows? Maybe going into the EB set and the OP07, I don't see it getting any worse. You know what I mean? I don't think it'll be much worse. It'll just be, is this like your play style? So anyway, a lot of cool stuff coming out, guys. I am very curious. I'm very curious to see how things unfold, especially seeing a queen deck pop up this early in the list. You know, with you know, this is a deck that I did play a lot. Whoops, I hit spacebar. This is a deck that I played quite a bit. So seeing this pop up in OP07 or EB, the EB stuff going in OP07, that is kind of interesting. It does make me want to, you know, maybe give it another try in the near future here. Because, guys, I've been playing so much Black Yellow Linlen, I've basically burned myself out on it. We'll see what happens in the future. It was like my main deck. And going into OP06, I do plan on playing this leader right here. And no, this is not a cheap list. For those wondering, this is obviously not a cheap list. But this is something I'm probably going to be messing around with once we hit OP06, just to take a break from Linlen. I'll never like fully give up on it or anything. I'll still, you know, of course, I'll still mess around with it at locals and whatnot and play around with it and make videos on it, because that's still my baby. The Black Yellow Linlen list is kind of like my absolute. That's my absolute favorite deck to run. It's like my favorite play style, but it's not quite where it needs to be at. It's missing something. A lot of people think it's from the leader effect being too expensive. Maybe it is a little too expensive, but that hasn't been my issue. My issue's just been like, you know, I can't keep up with some of these other decks. You know, I can gain life all day, but they eventually just overrun me on the board. But yeah, with Gecko Moria, this is probably what I'll be messing with in OP06 at first. And yeah, we'll see where things go from there. All right, guys, that's it. I'm done rambling. If you got any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to list them in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. And yeah, until next time, guys. Peace.